let's take another look at the 2026 Senate map. Looking at the safe Republican states, Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, West Virginia, South Carolina, and Kentucky can all fall in the safe Republican column. We can see in the last Senate elections that the Republicans managed to flip the seats in Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Montana, giving them a 53-seat majority to the Democrats' 47-seat minority. The Republican candidate in Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick, managed to pull off an upset and managed to flip the seat from Bob Casey, who was the incumbent Democratic senator, by just about a quarter of a point. The Democratic candidate in Michigan and Wisconsin managed to hold on ever so slightly in the states of Wisconsin and Michigan. In the state of Nevada, Rosen was able to win as an incumbent, and Gallego also managed to win by 2.5 points against Lake Carey, who was already a candidate who lost the governorship back in 2022 against Katie Hobbs. Clearly, the non-Trump coalition is far more susceptible to losses than the president was during the election. And without Donald Trump on the ballot, there are some major concerns for Republicans' performance in some of these Senate seats. Oregon, Colorado, Illinois, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, actually not New Jersey. New Jersey wouldn't be in this column, but those would all be in the safe column for the Democratic candidate, as well as, for example, Alaska. Now, with Ashley Moody in the state of Florida, I don't think she's as popular as people make her out to seem. I think she probably ends up winning re-election by about 10 points, give or take. I think Byron Donalds will probably end up outrunning her by quite a bit on this ballot. So I can't really see her, unfortunately, doing over a safe margin in the state of Florida as of right now. Kansas and Nebraska, including Montana and Mississippi, all fall under the 12-point threshold as well. I do think Steve Daines will face a similar margin in the state of Montana like he did in 2020 when he only won re-election by 10 points. I can see him winning anywhere by 9 to 11 points. In this case, I also think in Kansas, you're probably going to see a similar margin there. Marshall is not a popular incumbent senator, and I do think that with the brand new coalition that the Democrats and Republicans are building, I do think that lower propensity voters will be a lot harder to turn out for Republicans than Democrats. And so in Kansas and Nebraska, they will struggle quite a bit. I even think in Nebraska with the independent candidate, we can actually see that Dan Osborne has expressed interest in running there. You definitely see former exploratory committee Dan Osborne, and is also fundraising as of right now. And we also see a poll that came out from Change Research, which is a Democratic pollster, so it is going to skew a little bit left. But Ricketts is only up by 1 point against Dan Osborne in the survey with 9% undecided. So I would say it's safe to say for now to put this under the 12-point threshold. Joni Ernst is also a very unpopular Republican senator in the state of Iowa, tends to, be very wishy-washy with MAGA, very wishy-washy with the president. I also expect this to be under a 12-point margin, including the state of Ohio, which I actually think that the Republican candidate there is only going to win by like 7 points, because I think Vivek Ramaswamy as the gubernatorial candidate is going to do very bad there. I think he's only going to win it by less than 5 points. I think it's actually going to be a really close race in Ohio. And so because of that, you are going to get some underperformances in Ohio that you normally wouldn't expect. And so those are all the likely states. And even with that, the Republicans are still winning over 50 seats. They're winning 50 seats. So they have the majority regardless as of right now. Another likely state, I guess you could say, is Texas, where Ken Paxton will probably most likely end up being the nominee, given that he is primarying out John Cornyn. And John Cornyn seems pretty weak in this primary. Ken Paxton is leading by 15 to 25 points in all of the polling data here. So I do suspect that he will do pretty well in this scenario. I expect him to win by maybe 6 to 7 points statewide against the Democratic nominee. Virginia, I could see it being about a 9 to 10 point win for the Democratic there. I think that, for New Jersey, Cory Booker is the senator there. I do expect him to win by, 8 to 9 points as of right now. And in New Hampshire, I expect the Democratic candidate. Here's the thing about New Hampshire, right? Kristen Nunu could have ran, and that could have possibly been a very close flip or pickup. But because he's declined to run, this seat, I do think is going to be like a 7 to 8 point win for the Democrat, despite the incumbent not running. I still think the Democrats will win the seat fairly easily. And so because of that, I do think you end up getting a likely margin in New Hampshire. I also think Minnesota and New Mexico, you're going to get similar results there. I think in New Mexico, you get like a 7 to 8 point win for the Democrat. In Minnesota, I think about the same thing, 6 to 8 points for the Democratic nominee. So that puts Democrats at 45 seats. And you have a couple seats as, basically competitive seats here. Maine will be in the lean column. I think Susan Collins will probably win by 2 to 4. I don't think she's going to win by, 8 or 9 or 10 points because she was able to win by that margin mostly because of third party. And second of all, Donald Trump's voters actually ended up boosting her coalition even more. And so because of that, she was actually able to win by a lot more than she would have without Trump on the ballot. And so because of that, you are actually getting a somewhat competitive race. But I do think with her own standing there, she will actually be able to probably win by 2 to 4 points there. And given the demographics here, most likely Kemp is not running in Georgia, which puts Jon Ossoff in a pretty strong position here. And you see the polling has him up anywhere from 2 to 12 points, depending on the nominee. I would say it's lean Democrat for now, given the fact that in off-year elections, Georgia trends to sort of lean Democrat at the Senate level. It's trending to the left. The suburban areas around Atlanta still move to the Democrats regardless in 2024, despite Donald Trump having a really good performance nationwide. And so I think Jon Ossoff is favored to win by 2 to 3 points statewide. I think the only other two seats that are actually complete toss-ups are North Carolina and Michigan. North Carolina being that Tom Tillis isn't necessarily the most popular incumbent senator, and there's a chance he may be challenged, and that might cause problems. And if they run, for example, Roy Cooper in North Carolina, you're going to have a really competitive race there that might actually even result in the Democrat winning that seat, believe it or not. And in Michigan, you have sort of a pretty close election there, mostly because of the incumbent stepping down. The incumbent had lost a lot of support over the years to begin with. He won by 14 back in 2014. And then in 2020, he underperformed Joe Biden on the ballot. And John James seems to be the possible nominee for that seat. And he is very, very strong in Michigan and partnered with probably a very poor Democratic candidate in Michigan. You're probably going to see a really competitive race there. Not to mention the governorship is also up. And when we talk about the governorships in the next video, you're going to see Michigan's seat be very weird for the gubernatorial race because there is a third party, Mike Duggan, who is, the mayor of Detroit, and his high name ID will actually probably give him a lot of support, most likely above over 20% of the vote there. So it could throw off the Democrats on the ballot and could potentially push the state barely over for John James, I believe his name is John James, in the Republican seat. And North Carolina, I would say, given the fact that the voter registration trends look good for Republicans there, I would suspect that probably it's a narrow hold. And I think as of right now, this is what the Senate looks like. I think you have, one pickup for the Republicans and no flips for the Democrats. The one pickup for the Republicans would be Michigan. But other than that, these would be pure toss-ups. It is possible that North Carolina does go blue, but I'm not exactly sure. It's too early still, but I still wanted to do a video kind of looking at all of the seats, seeing what a generic matchup nationwide looks like right now. And this is, I kind of expect to be the case. Maybe Minnesota's a bit closer. Maybe New Mexico's a bit closer. That Democrat senator there isn't that strong to begin with. And with the trends with Hispanic voters, it's possible that you see that end up going a certain way. Maybe, the Republicans do better in Montana and Kansas than I suspect. And in Mississippi, it depends on whether or not the Republicans get low propensity Trump voters out. It depends on how the Democrats do with their voters. But as of right now, I think this is kind of a fair estimate on the map. And to even kind of prove my point, even Big Data Poll, which is Richard Barris, who is one of the more accurate and transparent pollsters in the industry, has the Republicans up in the generic ballot right now by 2 points. So this, give or take, sort of matches what I have here. This may even be like a tied national environment. So if anything, they're actually doing slightly better than this. But this is so far kind of what I have as of right now. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.